I was one of the guys who was either desperate enough or insane enough to take this job. Nobody in their right mind would apply for a maintenance position at an Arctic research facility, even if the hazard pay was worth it. No amount of money would entice someone to spend months away from civilization, constantly worrying about radiation, while fumbling around in a bright green hazmat suit all day. But, like I said, I was either desperate enough or insane enough. On top of the already psychologically damaging and physically treacherous conditions, we became individuals stripped of our identities. Since our hazmat suits were visored to protect us from snow blindness, our employer opted to give us each a different coloured suit for quick identification. The colour of your suit quickly became your name. I, green, was assessing the airflow in the West Wing. Red was assisting me. We were making sure that the large vents that circulated heated air throughout the facility weren't obstructed, as sometimes they would become clogged with snow during a blizzard. While there was a report of some obstruction, we weren't able to find anything that would have caused it.
Probably a penguin sliding through.
Red's voice crackled through the speaker on his suit.
If it was, it's completely blasted to fuck.
I banged on the vent.
Or a mutant. Yeah.
Red laughed.
Right. Let's get back to the showers. Can't wait to get this fucking thing off.
He agreed. We headed on our way back to decontamination, which would then lead to the living quarters, an area insulated from the persistent radiation leaks. As we made small talk, walking down the narrow corridors, the shoulders of our suits squeaking against one another, red light shone from above us. Accompanied by a blaring buzzing sound, the lights flashed rapidly.
Great,
Red said.
Let's turn around, I suppose.
It was amusing to me how casually we had begun to take things. Radiation leaks, blizzards, and small fires were standard. Red alerts had become so common in the facility that they were almost guaranteed overtime at this point. Both of our wrist-mounted pages buzzed simultaneously, and I read the pale, glowing screen. Emergency. Meet in Sen Ob.
Well, this is new.
Red perked up.
Mysterious.
I joked.
Off we go. Move!
An additional crackling voice shouted.
Hurry up!
Yellow squeezed between us, nearly knocking Red over. Panicking, jittery, on edge, Yellow. He was definitely in the desperate subsection of the employees here. I felt like Red and I were both somewhere in the middle of the aforementioned scale of insane and desperate.
Hey, watch it!
Red shouted.
There's an emergency!
Yellow stumbled around the corner.
When isn't there?
I nudged Red. We turned the corner, trailing closely behind Yellow, who must have been sweating buckets in his suit. Through the corridor, I saw the central observation room already populated by the rest of the crew. Black was sat at the far end of the circular table.
Well, now that we're all here...
Black gestured for myself, Red, and Yellow to sit.
Let's talk.
He turned to the monitor behind him and disabled the alarms.
We're not all here.
Orange chimed in.
White is... dead. White is dead.
Black interrupted.
What?
A number of us cried simultaneously.
I spotted him while on a routine check.
Black continued.
What happened to him?
Blue asked.
He was killed. Stabbed.
Black held his hands together, his gloves interlocked with one another.
How do you know it ain't an accident?
Pink said.
We're only getting a live feed from surveillance.
Brown pointed backwards with his thumb to the monitor behind him.
Someone wrecked the hard drive footage gets saved to.
We began to argue amongst ourselves. Yellow began panicking and pacing around the room. Pink was shouting loudly enough that I could hear him without the aid of his suit speaker. Black slammed his fist down on the table, silencing the group.
Would everyone shut up?
He placed his palms flat in front of him.
Someone in this room knows something. What makes you say that?
I asked. Yellow returned to his seat.
Nobody's clocked out today.
Brown chipped in.
None of us have gone through decontamination since we got on shift.
I looked around the room, around our round table. The empty gazes of expressionless visors looked equally suspicious. Black, brown, pink, blue, orange, purple, yellow, red, and me.
So like I said, let's talk.
Black drummed his fingers on the table.
You've been quiet, Purple. Well, I mean, I don't know what to say,
he replied. Everyone shifted in their seats, angling themselves towards Purple.
It's shock, you know? Hey, hold up.
Red leaned forwards.
Who put you in charge, Black? Yeah.
Purple added.
You're bossing everyone around. I'm in charge because I found White.
Black pointed at Red.
Sit back down. No!
Red stood upright. knocking his chair backwards.
This is bullshit. For all we know, Black killed him.
Red tapped my arm, prompting me to assist him.
Yeah, you gotta admit, how do we know it wasn't you?
I shrugged, not wanting to get involved in this dispute.
Why don't we just contact the company?
Yellow stuttered.
Snowstorm.
Pink placed his feet upon the table, leaning backwards in his chair.
Calms her down. Internal communications only. Great.
I muttered. We went back and forth for some time. We locked down the facility, informing the crew who weren't on shift of what had happened. It was decided that nobody could exit through decontamination until the perpetrator had been found. Nobody had blood on their suits, and nobody had any weapons or anything suspicious on their person. Red and I provided our alibis, that we were together for a number of our maintenance tasks. Everyone had some sort of alibi. Whether they were believable or not came mostly down to speculation. I was not thrilled by the idea of remaining amongst a group of potential killers, and I was even less thrilled by Pink's behaviour. How casually he had mentioned the blizzard, and how nonchalantly he placed his feet on the table, crossing his arms. I could only imagine the smug look upon his face as he said it. As we were in the throes of discussing how to catch the perpetrator, a second red alert sounded.
That you?
Blue asked.
Nope,
said Black.
Drill's busted.
Brown called over from the monitors.
Engineering and maintenance are needed ASAP. Whoa!
Yellow threw his hands up, the helmet of his suit shaking back and forth.
So you mean we still have to work, despite there being a murderer on the loose? Well, aside from that, the place goes up in flames.
Brown laughed.
How are you all so calm?
Yellow wailed.
Hazard pay.
Blue stood up.
Me, Green and Red will go. Right.
Brown swiveled in his chair.
Pink, see if you can make some sort of contact with the company. On it.
Pink gave a thumbs up.
Won't be able to, though.
He twisted his thumb downwards.
If any of you see anything or suspect anything...
Black turned away to face the monitors with Brown.
Use your pagers. Meet here. Anyone fails to show up, it's you.
The three of us made our way down to the drill, while others were assigned jobs as other parts of the facility fell apart. The drill was a gargantuan machine, a titan that obliterated the ice underneath.
Nobody was using the drill.
I closed the door behind me as we approached.
How could it have...
I stopped mid-sentence.
Shit.
Red and Blue confirmed.
How does that even happen?
I began to laugh.
Oh, this entire place is so scuffed.
Blue grumbled. From the other side of the room, we could all see the problem. The drill bit had fallen out of the drill. The entire drill bit had, somehow, seemingly unfastened and fallen straight into the hole that it had made. By now, it would have sunk to the bottom of the icy depths of the Antarctic Sea. The three of us determined that we had no chance of retrieving the fallen drill bit, so we immediately abandoned the task we had been assigned. A perimeter of black and yellow tape surrounded the hole left by the drill. I approached, ducking under the hazard line, and peered into the pit.
Trippy,
I said.
Don't be an idiot, Green.
Blue followed along behind me, keeping his distance from the pit.
Relax, Blue.
Red stood beside me.
He's good at being an idiot. A little too good.
I sat on the edge of the pit.
Morons.
Blue tutted.
If I was the murderer, you'd both be dead. You know that, right? No, we wouldn't.
Red joined me in looking into the pit, leaning over my shoulder.
They'd know it was you if we didn't come back. Could be any of us,
I said.
Well, who do you think it is?
Blue asked.
You.
Red and I said in unison.
Arseholes.
Blue snickered. Blue messaged Brown on his pager, which was a cumbersome task while wearing the hazmat suit. He informed him of the drill mishap, which prompted a response from Brown for us all to meet back in central observation. The narrow corridors allowed for only two of us to walk side by side. As Red and I led the way, the facility experienced yet another mishap. The lighting began to dim before shutting off completely.
God damn it.
I fumbled around on my helmet.
Fuck!
A voice yelped. A clanging and scuttling sounded above us.
Oh shit, get your fucking lights on.
I fiddled around with the controls on the side of my helmet, finally illuminating the immediate area around me with my headlamp. Red's headlamp shortly followed.
Where's Blue?
Red said. We spun around, searching for our colleague. In the dark, a silhouette of Blue's feet swung from the ventilation shaft above us.
What the fuck?
I reached for Blue's legs.
Get him down!
Red followed suit, and we pulled Blue's legs from the vent. But that was the problem. It was only his legs.
Oh god, oh fuck. Oh god. Oh fuck.
Red hyperventilated. A mess of gore trailed from the suit's legs that flopped down from the vent, spilling over both me and Red.
Oh no, fuck.
I collapsed to the floor, scooting away from the remaining half of Blue's corpse.
Fuck, what the fuck? How did that happen? Green?
Red hunched over, his hands on his knees, breathing rapidly.
You know what this looks like. No, come on, Red. Red, don't.
I sat against a narrow corridor wall.
They're gonna think we did this.
Red took a step closer to me.
No, they won't. They can't just say that about us.
I looked up at the looming red suit, that blank visor staring into my soul.
We have to fix this, Green.
Red took another step towards me.
Fix this? How can we fucking fix this?
I shouted, unable to back away any further.
Let's clean ourselves up.
Red wiped the front of his suit, the blood sticking to his glove.
Say we got separated from Blue in the blackout. No. No, we have to tell them what happened.
I jumped to my feet.
No human can do that in 3 goddamn seconds.
The lights turned back on. At the far end of the corridor stood a figure, a bright, yellow hazmat suit, with such obtuse body language that I could sense his anxiety from a mile away. He darted to the left, out of sight, down a narrow pathway.
Yellow, wait!
I bellowed, but Red had already begun chasing him. I ran after them, stumbling through the winding corridors, barely able to keep up with the thundering pair. The twisting path that Yellow took led us to the central observation room. The 3 of us skidded to a halt as we again were the final 3 to arrive.
Well.
Pink slurred, sat in the same position as before. With all the sass of a teenage girl, I could imagine him popping some bubblegum as he spoke.
Holy heck!
Purple blurted out, jumping away from me and Red as we trailed behind Yellow. I counted a total of 7 people remaining in the room. Aside from Blue, the second person missing was Black. Brown was still sat at the monitors, cycling through the cameras. Yellow was babbling incoherently to Purple, and Orange stared silently at me and Red. Pink reached across to tap Brown.
No Blue and Black?
He asked.
Well,
Brown pointed to the camera feed in front of him.
there's half a Blue.
He clicked past a few more cameras.
And there's Black with about 30 holes in him. And here's Green and Red.
Pink said.
Covered in blood and chasing Yellow, who went off with Blue. Oh, shut the fuck up.
I pointed at Pink.
They were stood right by him when I saw them.
Yellow's stammering plagued his shouting.
Come on, Brown. You must have saw something on the cams.
Red pleaded.
Lights went out.
Brown shrugged.
Couldn't see shit on the monitors.
In Black's absence, Brown had become the de facto spokesperson of the group. In his role of monitoring the security cameras, he became the only trustworthy person that the group could look towards for information. Red and I, on the other hand, appeared to have been caught red-handed.
You're going to have to trust me.
Red took a seat and prompted for me to follow. I sat, and Red continued.
Me and Green tried to help Blue while the lights were off, but he was just cut in half. There was nothing we could do. No way!
Yellow paced around the room, back and forth from Brown's monitor to the corner where Purple stood.
When the lights came back on, Yellow was just stood there.
Red gently nudged my leg under the table with his.
Yeah,
I took a second to think, unsure of exactly what Red expected me to say. A harder nudge from Red gave me some clarity.
It's kinda suspicious, Yellow. You were just stood there. Yellow sus?
Pink asked.
What do you mean, Yellow sus?
Yellow held his hands to his visor, shaking his head.
You have got to be kidding me. Purple, Orange.
Brown said.
What do you 2 think? I'm not getting involved in this.
Orange said, still facing towards me and Red.
Yellow?
Purple said from his corner, as Yellow paced away.
You're acting really weird. I'm acting weird?
Yellow screamed.
3 people have died, and I'm acting weird?
An argument broke out amongst our peers, as Red and I watched chaos unfold. I understood that Red wanted us to be safe from the suspicions of our peers, but there was no way that Yellow could have been the killer. That nervous wreck couldn't even shave without panicking, let alone cut a man in half and keep his cool. The cogs in my mind began to turn as Red watched coldly on. I could imagine a smirk, or a menacing grin, or perhaps a knowing wink on the face of my friend. I felt myself beginning to suspect Red, though it couldn't have been him. We were both together the entire time. He could have pushed me into the pit. It couldn't have been red. Could it?
Red? Green?
Brown stood, leaving his monitoring station for the first time since the inciting incident.
Is yellow the killer? Yes.
Red, without missing a beat, dropped a harsh accusation onto the innocent party.
I'm taking no chances.
Brown marched towards Yellow, grabbing him by the arm.
Green, get over here.
Through the narrow corridors, Brown and I stood side by side. Behind us we dragged Yellow, kicking and screaming, by his arms. The rest of the crew followed along behind us. A rambling jumble of violent words and erratic motions came from Yellow as we pulled his flailing body to the drill room. The mechanical monstrosity that towered above a bottomless pit of frostbitten white and black.
Are we really doing this?
I asked Brown.
Yes.
He hoisted Yellow around, and the both of us restrained him.
I don't think I can.
I muttered.
I don't think we have a choice.
Pink said.
Someone has got to go. You do it then.
I left Brown to restrain Yellow by himself.
Fine.
Pink took my place, assisting Brown with the immediate struggle that Yellow put up. The scream that echoed from the pit as Yellow plummeted to his inevitable end in the frozen ocean was deafening. It was abrasive, loud. I could hear it scratching at Yellow's throat. His guttural screams were silenced by his clattering against one of the walls of the pit. A faint splash concluded the macabre symphony. I knew that we had all sentenced an innocent man to his demise, but I felt a small sense of relief that it wasn't me plummeting down the pit. That was the only thing that kept me from vomiting inside my suit at the framing of Yellow. The snowstorm battered at the fabric of the drill room that was more of an external canopy than an actual room. Like a white noise, it distracted me from the deed I had been an accomplice to. Red stood strong, remnants of blue still bare to see upon his suit. I slouched and looked down at my red gloves that should have been green. Knowingly sentencing an innocent man to death took its toll on me. I followed the rest of the crew to the central observation room, but I kept my head down and dragged my feet. To the best of my knowledge, there was still a killer among us, and we were down 4 crewmates. Green, red, pink, brown, purple, and orange. I knew it wasn't me. It can't have been red. I was sure of it. Brown seemed eager to dump Yellow into the pit, as did Pink. Purple turned on Yellow without a second thought. Orange had been far too quiet for my liking. Red's instant decision to ostracize Yellow instead of try to explain the situation made me question him too. Maybe he truly believed it was Yellow. Maybe he was just worried that he would be accused of being the killer. What worried me more than the uncanny behavior of my colleagues, however, was the speed and ferocity with which the killer bisected Blue. Whoever it was, whatever it was incredibly efficient at killing. I didn't feel like performing duties to assist with the upkeep of the facility any longer. It made me feel vulnerable to have to walk around this collapsing relic of a building. In that moment, I then felt how Yellow must have. Fear, paranoia, anxiety, vulnerability, a persistent worry that somehow something will go wrong. Premonitions of Pink piercing me with a palm blade pervaded my mind. It had to be him. How willing he was to step up to the mark and throw Yellow into the pit. In those mere moments that Yellow plummeted, I could picture Pink grinning perversely. I knew that I had to catch him in the act, but I had no idea how. I hoped that perhaps Brown would see him on one of the security monitors, but I didn't trust Brown entirely either.
That's that sorted?
Brown clapped his hands together as if he was dusting them off.
And what if it wasn't him?
Orange piped up.
Then it's Red,
said Pink. Red was about to interpolate with some retort when he was interrupted by yet another red alert. Something that needed fixing. We would have to make our way back to central observation to see exactly what it was. Brown informed us, after checking the facility diagnostics, that there was a problem with the central communications server. Orange, the computer engineer, was tasked with inspecting it. Pink, communications specialist, would assist him, and so would Red and I. That left Purple and Brown alone to monitor the cameras. Red and I hung back from Orange and Pink, keeping our distance enough to communicate with each other about the rest of the crew.
I don't trust Pink,
I said, matter-of-factly.
I don't either. Smug prick.
Red muttered.
It wasn't yellow, you know.
I whispered, though loud enough that it would be audible through my suit's speaker system.
Rather him than us, right, Green? We could have explained it. I don't know, it feels really fucked up. Self-preservation.
Red trailed a hand along the wall beside him. Pink and Orange were murmuring to one another ahead of us, probably having much the same conversation about us. Red and I agreed that Pink's behaviour was disagreeable, to say the least. As calmly as everyone had acted, nobody had behaved quite like Pink.
Right, let's check it out.
Orange slid the door open.
We're up shit creek without a paddle if we can't get our pagers back, since we have no external comms with the company. Any luck with that, Pink? I keep telling everyone, snowstorm.
Pink banged his hands on the wall as he followed Orange inside. Red put a subtle middle finger up behind Pink's back as he entered behind him.
Let's just get this over with,
I said. The server room was small, box-like, the exact opposite of the vast expanse that was the drill room. 3 towers, equidistant from one another, were the object of our focus. I didn't see how much help I could be. I was a maintenance man. I supposed that additional company couldn't hurt, given the situation. It wouldn't be wise to leave anyone alone with Pink. Once all 4 of us were inside the room, Orange closed the door.
Hey, what's that for?
I tried to stop him.
I know it wasn't yellow.
Orange grabbed my wrist.
It could still be brown or purple, or pink, or red, or you.
I saw my bloodied suit reflected in his visor, and I realised exactly how I must have looked to my colleagues. It was much more noticeable on my green suit than it was on Red's.
Nobody leaves or enters until we're done here,
Pink added. Orange assessed the 3rd tower, the only one which wasn't powered on, and found the source of the problem. There was no problem with the tower itself. It was simply the case that a fuse had blown. I bent over to replace the fuse, and as I finished, I heard a scuffle behind me. I jerked around to look, and the door was open. Everyone had disappeared. I poked my head around the corner to see where everyone had went. I crept forwards, being sure to keep an eye out for any vents from which someone could spring. As I hugged the wall, I found myself able to position myself behind a maintenance trolley, able to peek over the top at an unused clearing. It was once a common area, before the frequent radiation leaks made it unusable prior to the arrival of the current crew. Placed perfectly upon a middle table was Pink, perforated and pouring blood. The holes in his suit were like fountains. Stood beside him was Red.
Hey!
Red shouted.
Someone! Green!
Pink's fingers twitched as Red lifted him. Pink was still alive. I heard the groaning of old metal, and spied a vent in the far corner of the room.
Pink wasn't the killer! Come help us!
Red hoisted Pink up onto his shoulders. As I was about to dash forwards to assist Red, a single thought stopped me. What if this was bait? I knelt, watching Red help Pink. It was a useless endeavour. His hazmat suit was filled with holes. If his wounds didn't kill him, the radiation would. Red helping Pink didn't make any sense. The vent behind them groaned again. The earlier distaste Red expressed for Pink doubled my suspicions.
Come on!
Red pleaded. I ignored his cries for help. It had to be him. I turned tail and sprinted to what had become the investigatory hub. In central observation, hunched over a computer desk, Brown still sat.
Hey, Brown!
I shouted. I received no response. I walked over to him.
Brown?
In his chair, Brown was slumped over his keyboard. Blood dripped down from his helmet. A smattering of red dripped across the keys. A hole from behind his head, passing through and shattering the front of his visor. Pieces of tinted visor were strewn about the desk. I slammed my hand down on the emergency button that Brown had used to sound the red alert earlier. My trembling fingers typed out the same message on the now up-and-running paging system. Emergency. Meet in Sen Ob. And there we were. 3. Red, purple, and green.
Where's Pink?
Asked Purple.
Where's Orange?
I asked.
It's just us, isn't it?
Purple stood as far away from us as the room would allow. I was following the same safety measures. Red was carelessly standing beside the central table.
So that means it's one of us.
Red grimaced.
Yeah.
I flitted my gaze between both Red and Purple. Neither of them gave anything away. They were both cold, faceless entities in my wake. Someone with a more observant eye might have been able to determine something from their body language, but I was far too nervous to even begin to consider doing that. The two of them exchanged words, but the meanings of whatever they said slipped through my mind like an incorporeal sludge. Their conversation was white noise in the background, as the machinations of my thoughts manifested a single dark thread that was woven into a sinful tapestry.
It's one of you two,
I said.
Hey!
Purple pointed the metaphorical finger at me.
How do I know it wasn't you? Green was replacing the fuse in the server room.
Red vouched.
That's when the door opened, and Pink and Orange both ran out. Why did they run out?
I directed my attention to Red.
How should I know?
Red threw his hands outwards.
When I followed them out, Orange was gone, and Pink was dead. So it's him!
Purple shouted.
You gotta see that, Green. Hey, we don't even know where Orange is.
Red shouted back. The two began hurling insults back and forth, and I spied the monitors. Rolling Brown out the way, the wheels of his chair squeaking as I did so, I crouched by the screen. Rapidly clicking through the various camera feeds, I found what I was looking for.
Over here.
I projected my voice at the rabble of their argument.
Orange's leg's just around the corner from the server room.
The two stopped and turned to the monitors.
Damn.
Red said.
So now, I'm going to ask you each a few questions.
I turned to my first defendant.
Red, where were you when Pink was killed? I was running after them. I went around the corner, and Pink was already dead.
Red responded.
Why did you leave me in the server room to follow them? I don't know. I saw them running around and I followed. I don't know why they did it.
Red's voice became more panicked as he tried to explain himself.
Who opened the door?
I asked.
It was open from the outside. It had to have been Purple.
Red began to babble.
And you?
I turned to Purple.
Where were you when Brown was killed? There was a problem with the heating system. Brown told me to fix it before we all froze to death.
Purple shifted incessantly as I questioned him.
Why didn't I pass you on my way back to Central?
I said, calmly, adjusting my stance.
What?
Purple backed away.
I was inside the boiler room, right beside the heating unit. Why? I heard running down the corridor.
Purple explained.
So I hid in there on my way back, but it must have been you. Oh, Red, did you pass by the boiler room?
I asked.
No.
Red said.
I didn't go that way either. He's lying!
Purple screamed.
It has to be him. Green, come on.
Red placed a hand on my shoulder.
You were right there. Whoever killed Blue was in the fucking vent. Did you see me crawl around in the goddamn vent? Would both of you just shut the fuck up for 1 second?
I shouted at them both, swatting Red's hand away.
One of you is going down the fucking pit. Green.
Red lowered his tone.
I vouched for you. If it was me, I'd have told Purple it was you. That's bullshit.
Purple raised his tone.
That's what he wants you to think. He's manipulating you. Enough.
I slammed my fists on the table, in much the same way Black had earlier.
We are walking to the pit. All three of us.
I walked behind Red and Purple, pressing them onwards. Armed with Brown's wheeled office chair, I prodded at their backs to push them forwards. Whichever one of them it was knew that, if they tried anything, the other would come to my aid instantly. The two professed their innocence to me as I marched them onwards to the drilling room. When we arrived, the two stood outside the boundary of the hazard tape's perimeter. I, with office chair still in hand, trembled. I knew that I would be committing a murder, and I might not know if I had condemned an innocent man until it was too late.
Red was eager to kill Yellow, you know.
Purple muttered.
Yeah, and you were quick to turn on him.
I raised the chair.
Neither of you can use that shit here. You know why I did that.
Red said, and for the first time I sensed worry in his tone.
I was protecting us. Oh, please.
Purple mocked.
He was protecting himself. He wants you to trust him. That's what this has all been about. I know this is hard.
Red began.
But you just have to trust me. It's me. It's Red. You know me. That's such crap.
Purple fretted.
He's an imposter. You're full of shit, Purple.
Red turned, pushing Purple's arm.
Fuck you. You throw me into that pit and he'll kill you right after.
Purple edged away from Red.
Look, he can barely control his anger now. Green?
Red wavered.
Come on, you're not buying this, right? I know, Red.
I shuffled forwards.
But the only person I saw with pink was you. I was trying to help him.
Red clasped his hands together.
I saw you there and thought you were baiting me.
I admitted.
If I was standing there baiting you, when would I have had time to go and kill Brown?
It seemed obvious now that Red said it. Red had a solid alibi, in the sense that the only time he was out of my sight was in the moments I traced his steps out of the server room. Purple, on the other hand, could have easily been crawling around in the vents. I hadn't seen him once in the entire time I had been walking around the facility.
Well,
Purple shrugged.
I can see this isn't working.
His entire demeanor changed. With a furious speed, Purple extended an arm and struck Red in his temple. In a second swift motion, he swept Red's legs from under him.
Motherfucker!
I readied the chair to throw at Purple, but a seam opened on his stomach. Sloshing goo spilled from his midsection, and a dozen writhing, black, sopping tendrils wormed their way from the gaping maw that had appeared on Purple's suit. In my hesitation, Purple saw an opportunity. I was aghast at what he was, or what he had become. I stared at the screeching mouth, its rows of sharp teeth hypnotizing me with fear. The tendril sprung forth from the abomination and ripped the chair from my hands, pulling it towards him. Red leapt to his feet, springing forth to take the chair from where it had fallen. He swung it at Purple, pushing him backwards towards the pit. The hazard tape ripped as Purple stumbled backwards over it. The still squirming tendrils blocked the successive blows of the chair, but Red kept pummeling him. The sloshing Purple finally managed to knock aside his adversary, and I rushed towards them. I was making my dash to finally knock Purple into the pit when a single tendril shot towards me. The spiked appendage was aimed right towards my face. A lolling tongue drooped above the bottom row of teeth, the faux lips upturned in a smile. As the spike sprung towards me, my vision was obscured by a dark spray. I tumbled backwards, landing flat on my back. Quickly wiping my visor, I saw my friend, Red, stood between me and Purple. Poking from his back was the tendril that had been intended for me. Red stumbled forwards, impaling himself further on Purple's spike. The rest of the tendrils rapidly pierced Red as he approached Purple. Still, as if he was built of sheer determination, Red pressed onwards. Meeting Purple at the edge of the pit, Red fell forwards. Then, clattering, the pair hurtled downwards. The harmony of screeching, stabbing, and colliding ended with the same gentle, distant splash that had ended Yellow's closing number. A man whose name I never knew, who I had suspected of unforgivable crimes, who had so instinctively prioritized his own survival, had sacrificed himself. Whether it was for me, or another reason I am unsure of, I don't know. Whatever it was, I am, and always will be grateful. Thank you, Red. After that, my final task was the most arduous. I needed to get my colleagues in the living quarters to believe me. If you like this original story, please consider subscribing. And if you're interested, we're going to be recording a podcast tomorrow where we talk about this story, Among Us, and some other horror-related media. So, stay tuned for that.